How do you like you some F1? Because on this afternoon, there are very many F1 threads, F1 centric threads, at which we no must pull. Lewis Hamilton and Angela back together, potentially. We will get to that. Obviously, that's top of the F1 docket today. Got to talk about Colapinto too, putting pressure unnecessarily, some may say, on the neck of one Jack Doohan. So too, we'll talk about Belgium, Spa, Francorchamps, getting an extension of sorts. And so too, we'll talk about this F1 boss stuff and Liberty Media, potentially what are they doing in the background. First on the docket today, we'll talk about Spa Francorchamps getting an extension, but not an indefinite one. It will be alternate years. 2026 Spa Francorchamps will remain. So too 27, 28 no Spa Francorchamps. It will be 29 and back. 2030 no Spa Francorchamps again. 2031 the track will be back. The F1 community say collective, oh, the humanity. What are we going to do in 28 and 30? No Spa Francorchamps. Now, listen, we've spoken about this a gazillion times already. There has been, F1 has been dying to grow into other markets, right? Saudi Arabia, techie, Qatar, very techie too, Abu Dhabi, Yas Marine, etc., etc. You see where I'm going with this. Ultimately, in 2025, you have to go where the money is if indeed you want to continue as a going concern to grow the bottom line. But there is a fine line to be walked here because F1 fans, diehard grizzled F1 vets, aren't going to appreciate it when you start to alternate Spa Francorchamps and let's say Zandvoort as an example, because that's been the rumour for the longest time. So close are they in proximity on the map. It's going to get techie for another couple circuits on the grid currently, because lest we forget, Mexico still are set to expire at the end of 2025. No contract extension is in the offing per se. Imola, same thing. Could we see Imola and, I don't know, Monza alternate? Potentially something similar whilst they continue to expand into these new territories, focus on growing new markets. Potentially. I mean, if Drive to Survive and Liberty Media are anything to go by, if past his prologue, then we should expect it by now. We'd be naive not to, almost. We'll see what happens with Mexico, although Latin American and North American fan bases are super preoccupied, suspicious as to what happens in F1 in North America, the Americas, therefore, after Mexico potentially drops off the circuit. You know that ticket sales would do one of these, knowing all the while that Checo Perez won't be there. He was their hero. He's no longer a going concern in Formula One. What happens then to F1 and the fan base in the Americas? One of these, surely. But that coincides potentially with Cadillac joining in 2026. What will they do with their drivers? Will they get in a Checo Perez by dint of the $20 million that he'll bring in per annum because of Carlos Slim's sponsorship? Potentially. Oh, and by the way, F1 are doing something dodgy in the background here. I do not know what. But let's put our F1 investigative caps on for a second, if I may. F1 boss has changed. Remember, it was Greg Maffei. He was the CEO of F1 by dint of his association with Liberty Media. He went away and then there was an interim. Now, however, there's a new fella. He used to be CEO of NBA China, a media expertise specialist, this Chang fella. He was director of Liberty Media since March 2021, CEO of NBA China between 2018 and 2020. He said that the group's focus included supporting the group to growing, if I could get my words out, Cameron, to growing our attractive operating assets, including F1 and MotoGP post-acquisition, to continue their momentum and invest for the future. Invest for the future. Can you say Fabio Briatore settings, executive advisor settings? I suspect, if indeed I'm putting on my F1 investigative cap, that Liberty Media edging nearer and nearer to a sale. F1 as an asset has done one of these over the past 4 or 5 years, unexpectedly so, by dint, of course, of Drive to Survive growth. So to 2021, gangbuster season, if ever you've seen it. COVID, again, one of the only international sports still to be going on during that COVID fiasco. So what does that mean? That means that F1 as an asset has done one of these, absolutely outstripping any growth anticipations that Liberty Media had ever had. This is a difference in extents, therefore, not kinds. Greg Maffei once upon a time did an interview and they said, aren't you going to sell this thing called F1? Greg Maffei at that time made it clear that if ever they were to sell F1, they would need to restructure Liberty Media as an organisation. It's far too tax inefficient in its current structure, the way it was brokered out as a group. What are you talking about, Cameron? Well, of course, it was Liberty Media, underneath which you had Live Nation, Ticketmaster, etc., Sirius XM, and then you had Formula One. It was a parent member, a very weird spiderweb structure, and they would have been smashed as far as taxation if ever they did get rid of F1 as an asset, no going concern entity underneath that structure. We would need to change it. There was no change. However, there is change now. Ad infinitum around all of their structure. Sirius XM has now been siphoned off. So too Live Nation and Ticketmaster. Under Liberty Media, therefore, it is just F1. Ladies and gentlemen of the F1 jury, what else are we looking at if not a company readying Formula One for sale? But I digress. Oh, the humanity. Techier than techie things, eh? Potentially. Don't take that one to the bank, but I think it could be happening in real time. Oh, and by the way, Lewis Hamilton and Angela, his one-time coach, potentially reuniting. Now, of course, the F1 community, Sir Lewis Hamilton fans in particular, would love nothing more than this. Lewis Hamilton moves into Milan, joins Scuderia Ferrari, puts on him a red overall set atop the yellow badge, atop of which is the black prancing horse, and comes out on February the 19th with Angela side by side. This is the reunion that we didn't even realise we need. Why are we talking about this now? Well, because Lewis Hamilton is on the ski slopes. Guess who else is on the ski slopes with him? Per Instagram pictures, not with him necessarily, but at the same time. Correction, excuse me, Angela, mate. Can you imagine if these two reunited? I feel bad that they ever separated. It felt like something went awry there. I didn't even think I'd ever see Lewis Hamilton sans Angela next to him by his side. Lewis Hamilton spoke not too long around his 40th birthday about how important Angela was for him, that people wouldn't understand it naturally because they see it from a distance. But Angela has been one of the greatest things that's ever happened in my life, he said after their split. I've been fortunate to work with a lot of people, but she's the single hardest working woman that I got to be around. She's focused, selfless, and she makes my weekends peaceful. Every day I wake up, whatever the time is, she's just positive. Never a single day has she been negative. So that for me is very important. Lewis Hamilton words, not mine. There is a rumour, if word on the F1 curb is something that you want to be invested in, that Mercedes cut down on all of Lewis Hamilton's hanger-ons per se. The bodyguard, whose name eludes me, gone. Angie, gone. There were a load of them that were gone all around the same time. Does this mean now that Sir Lewis Hamilton is going to Scuderia, sprouting his wings, touching grass, pastures anew, that potentially we might see him in 2025 alongside his old trusty steed, Angela Cullen? Oh, ladies and gentlemen, the humanity. How do you like your F1?